सिद्धिविनायकमूर्ति की जय। जानकीकान्तस्मरणं जय जय राम राम। गोपिका जीवनस्मरणं गोविंद गोविंद। हर हर नमः पार्वतीपतये हर हर महादेव। श्री सद्गुरुस्वामिनः जय। आञ्जनेयस्वामिनः जय। सदा बालरूपापि विघ्नाद्रिहन्त्री महादन्तिवक्त्रापि पञ्चास्यमान्या विधीन्द्रादिमृग्या गणेशाभिधामे विधत्तां श्रियं कापि कल्याणमूर्तिः श्यामा काचन चन्द्रिका त्रिभुवने पुण्यात्मनामानने सीमा शून्यकवित्ववर्षजननी याः कापि कादम्बिनी महारारातिमनोविमोहनविधौ काचित्तमः कन्दली कामाक्ष्याः करुणाकटाक्षलहरी कामाय मे कल्पतां शारदा शारदाम्भोजवदना वदनाम्बुजे सर्वदा सर्वदास्माकं सन्निधिं सन्निधिं क्रियात्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। अपारकरुणासिन्धुं ज्ञानदं शान्तरूपिणं श्रीचन्द्रशेखरगुरुं प्रणमामि मुदान्वहं। यदीयाङ्घ्रिचिन्ता सुपूता च वाणी यदीयं स्वरूपं सदा ध्यानयोग्यं तमेवेन्दुचूडाख्यदिव्यावतारं मनोवाक्शरीरैः गुरुश्रेष्ठमीडे सदात्मध्याननिरतं विषयेभ्यः पराङ्मुखं नौमि शास्त्रेषु निष्णातं चन्द्रशेखरभारतीं दोर्भिर्युक्ता चतुर्भिः स्फटिकमणिमयीम् अक्षमालां दधाना हस्ते नैकेन पद्मं सितमपि च शुकं पुस्तकं चापरेण भासा कुन्देन्दुशङ्खस्फटिकमणिनिभा भासमाना असमाना सा मे वाग्देवतेयं निवसतु वदने सर्वदा सुप्रसन्ना। कूजन्तं राम रामेति मधुरं मधुराक्षरम् आरुह्य कविताशाखां वन्दे वाल्मीकिकोकिलं। वाल्मीकेः मुनिसिंहस्य कवितावनचारिणः शृण्वन् रामकथानादं को न याति परां गतिं। यः पिबन् सततं रामचरितामृतसागरम् अतृप्तः तं मुनिं वन्दे प्राचेतसमकल्मषम् आञ्जनेयमतिपाटलाननं काञ्चनाद्रिकमनीयविग्रहं पारिजाततरुमूलवासिनं भावयामि पवमाननन्दनं। वैदेहीसहितं सुरद्रुमतले हैमे महामण्टपे मध्ये पुष्पकम् आसने मणिमये वीरासने सुस्थितम् अग्रे वाचयति प्रभञ्जनसुते तत्त्वं मुनिभ्यः परं व्याख्यान्तं भरदादिभिः परिवृतं रामं भजे श्यामलं। नमोऽस्तु रामाय सलक्ष्मणाय देव्यै च तस्यै जनकात्मजायै नमोऽस्तु रुद्रेन्द्रयमानिलेभ्यः नमोऽस्तु चन्द्रार्कमरुद्गणेभ्यः। पीताम्बरं करविराजितशङ्खचक्रकौमोदकी सरसिजं करुणासमुद्रं राधासहायम् अतिसुन्दरमन्दहासं वातालयेशमनिशं हृदि भावयामि योऽन्तः प्रविश्य मम वाचमिमां प्रसुप्तां सञ्जीवयति अखिलशक्तिधरस्वधाम्ना अन्यांश्च हस्तचरणश्रवणत्वगादीनि प्राणान्नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यं श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणोक्तधर्मघोषणनिस्तुलं भक्तवात्सल्यजलधिं पूर्णानुग्रहकारिणम् उपन्यासमहारत्नम् अज्ञातकटुभाषणम् अनन्तरामयोगीन्द्रं मद्गुरुं श्रेयसे भजे मुहुकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं भक्तवात्सल्यजलधेः परमानन्दरूपिणः अस्मदाचार्यराजस्य प्रपन्नोऽस्मि पदाम्बुजं त्र्यम्बकपुराधीशं गणाधिपसमन्वितं गजारूढमहं वन्दे शास्तारं कुलदैवतं विराजन्तं त्रिनयने वल्लीसेनापतिं प्रभुं वाञ्छितार्थप्रदं वन्दे षण्मुखं कुलदैवतं बुद्धिर्बलं यशो धैर्यं निर्भयत्वमरोगता अजाड्यं वाक्पटुत्वञ्च हनूमत्स्मरणात् भवेत् அஞ்சிலே ஒன்று வைத்தான் அஞ்சிலே ஒன்றைத்தாவி அஞ்சிலே ஒன்றாராக ஆரியற்காக ஏகி அஞ்சிலே ஒன்று பெற்ற அணங்கை கண்டு அயலாரூரில் அஞ்சிலே ஒன்றை வைத்தான் அவன் நம்மை அழித்து காப்பான் ஊனிடைச்சுவர் வைத்து கண்பு தூண்ணாட்டி உரோமம் மேய்ந்து 9 வாசல் தானுடை குரம்பை பிரியும் போது உந்தம் சரணமே சரணம் என்றிருந்தேன் தேனுடை கமலத்திருவினுக்கரசே திரைஹி குள்மா நெடுங்கடல் கிடந்தாய் நானுடை தவத்தால் திருவடி அடைந்தேன் நைமிஷாரண்யத்துழந்தாய் ஸ்ரீஹரயே நமः சீதாலக்ஷ்மண பரதசத்ருக்ன ஹனுமத் சமேத ஸ்ரீராமச்சந்திராய பரபிரம்மணே நமः குருபவனபுரேஷாய நமः சத்குருச்சரணாரவிந்தாभ्यां நமः வாக்தேவ்யே நமः ஓம் ஹனுமதே நமः ஸ்வஸ்தியஸ்து சமஸ்தசன்மங்களானி சந்து समस्तैश्वर्यप्राप्तिरस्तु श्लोकैकदेशश्रवणपठनमात्रेण वक्तुश्च श्रोतॄणां धर्मादिनिखिलपुरुषार्थ सिद्धिप्रदे समस्तकलिकल्मषापनोदनपटुतरे श्रीमद् रामगुणानुभवे अद्य वर्तमानकथाप्रसङ्गः पूर्वकथासङ्ग्रहश्च श्रीहरये नमः. May the infinite grace of the Lord and the benign benedictions of the Gurus inspire us as we continue to immerse ourselves in the immaculate stream of Sri Rama's inexhaustible virtues. Yesterday, we were dwelling upon the various virtues of the Lord as bequeathed to Valmiki by the sage Narada in response to a series of questions. In the 16 qualities which Valmiki asked Narada, there are 2 qualities which are placed side by side. Vidwan kaha kas samartascha. Is there somebody who is a great scholar and also one who is quite capable in the practical sense of the term? These two need not necessarily coexist. I am reminded of a story narrated by Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa to illustrate how important it is to have experiential wisdom and not merely intellectual understanding. There was a great scholar. He wanted to cross a river and go to the other side. He boarded a boat along with other passengers. The boatman was a poor, illiterate person. He was trying to make a living by plying the boat a few times across the river every day. The scholar could have maintained silence, but his ego prevented it. He wanted to display what a great scholar he was. So while the boat was being plied across the river, he started a conversation with the boatman and asked him, have you read the Vedas? You can't expect a boatman to have a knowledge of the Vedas. Then he would not be plying the boat at all. This simple fact did not strike the mind of our scholar. The boatman said, look here, I am a very poor man. I don't have time for all these academic niceties. I have not read the Vedas. Do you know the Shastras? He asked. No. Then the scholar was forced to say, half your life is wasted. At least do you know about the Puranas or the Itihasas? No, sir. I have no time for all those things. It is difficult for me to eke out a livelihood as it is. Then 3/4 of your life is wasted, the scholar said. In the meantime, what happened? As they were conversing, they were beset by a great storm. The boat started to veer this way and that way. There was no stability in the movement. And all the passengers were taken aback by fear. Now it was the boatman's turn to have a dig at the scholar. He asked the scholar, sir, do you know how to swim? Then the scholar said, no, I don't know how to swim. Then your whole life is now wasted because the boat is about to turn topsy-turvy. Unless you know swimming, you cannot cross this river. This is the state of affairs for many of the people. Either they have practical knowledge or they have scholarship. It is very rare to have a person with a combination of both. That is why today we have got a concern in industry that many of the graduates and postgraduates that are being churned out by the universities, they have got degrees, but they are not employable. There is a disconnect between academic education and industrial needs. That is why the concept of employability comes. In the case of Rama, he was a great scholar. He was also practically competent in all the things that have got to be faced in life. That is why Vidwan Kaha Kas Samarthascha. This is addressed by Narada while replying to Valmiki, saying that Sarva Shastra Artha Tattvagyaha, on the one hand, he knew not only all the Shastras, mind the choice of words. He was a past master in knowing the inner spirit and inner connotation of all the Shastras. Sarva Shastra Artha Tattvagyaha, not merely Sarva Shastragyaha, but Sarva Shastra Artha Tattvagyaha. Then he is also termed as being Vichakshanaha. Vichakshanaha is one who is capable. He is never at a loss to know what is to be done in a given situation. He can handle any situation in life. He is Vichakshana. Apart from that, we saw a host of virtues yesterday, and we stopped with the verse which says, Aryaha Sarvagata Sadbhigi Samudra Iva Sindhubhigi Sarvada Abhigata Sadbhigi Samudra Iva Sindhubhigi Aryaha Sarvasamaschiva Kasht Sadeva Priyadarshanaha. Aryaha, a very controversial word. It is a needless controversy for various vested interests. Different color has been given to this word, as if all those who came from the north are Aryas, and there were no Aryas in South India at all. Though this northern invasion theory has been sufficiently debunked, many people try to cling to it for their own reasons. The direct meaning of the word Arya is very clear and simple. It comes from the root, we call it a dhatu in Sanskrit. The root for a verb is called a dhatu. It comes from the dhatu ru, to go. So those who have got to be approached for succor in times of distress, they are termed as Aryas. Those who are worthy of being approached for succor in times of distress. It is also interesting to note that contrary to the popular view that is held today by a vast majority of people, particularly in South India, the term Arya, which is used to denote Rama, is used to denote a person who was not of Brahmin origin. Arya does not refer to an ethnic origin. We must be very clear about it. Arya refers to a nobility of thought, a nobility of character, which makes him the natural magnet towards whom all the people in sorrow are attracted, so that their distress can be addressed and addressed successfully. It has nothing to do with ethnicity at all. You have got Aryas amongst non-Brahmins. You also have Dravids among Brahmins. There are certain Brahmin families, people of very high scholarship, great virtue and all Brahminical virtues, who go by the surname of Dravid. Because several centuries back, their forefathers, they migrated from the south to the north. And to distinguish these people who migrated and subsequently were domiciled in the north, to distinguish these people from those who originally hailed from the north, these people who migrated from the south, they were addressed by an appellation called Dravid. Dravid means somebody who comes from the south. It is closely connected with the word Dakshina, which means south in the Sanskrit language. So, there are Dravids amongst Brahmins, Aryas amongst non-Brahmins. You will find lot of references in Sanskrit literature. In the Ramayana itself, you can find a lot of references. In the very first sarga itself, Narada says, Arya sarvasamaschaiva sadaiva priyadarshanaha. Whom else other than Rama you can approach for succor when you are in difficulty? There was a great devotee of Rama called Rama Diksha. I had occasion to refer to him a couple of days back in a different context. He was blessed with the divine vision of Rama in his dreams, and he wrote a centad of verses on Rama's Kodanda, another centad on Rama's arrow. In one sloka, not necessarily in that centad, in one sloka he says, there are a host of devas who are not prepared to immediately offer asylum to those who seek surrender. Kim devaihi itarihi prapanna bharane. They are not prepared to offer asylum to those who come and seek surrender at their lotus feet. I will worship only that particular deity, I will worship only Lord Rama, who did not distinguish between what is to be given and what is not to be given. Kindeyam kimadejamit yavidudam tam is the only refuge of all those who seek succor. There can be no other refuge. That is why he is called as Sarvaloka Sharanya. This term comes from Vibhishana, who came from the opposite camp and who was gracefully admitted without any question. There was no question, there was no doubt, there was no hesitation on the part of Rama. If you see that particular episode in the Yuddhakanda, you will find that all the other persons, with the sole exception of Anjaneya, Sugriva, even the great Jambavan, he was not in favor of admitting Vibhishana into Rama's fold. He cited the reason saying that the time and the occasion are not correct for admitting Vibhishana to our fold. But Anjaneya was the only person who understood the Lord's mind and said, Sayesha Desha Kalascha, this is the time, this is the right place. If Vibhishana had come earlier, the world would have censured him. He should have waited a little longer, tried to convince his brother and tried to bring him back to the right path. If he had waited longer and waited till Rama crossed the ocean and came to the Lanka, then the world would have censured Vibhishana and said, he knew which way the wind was blowing, he knew who was going to be victorious, and therefore he decided to cast his vote with the winning party. So, either way, even if he had come earlier, or if he had approached Rama later, he would have been censured as being either an opportunist or a person who was not prepared to work for the welfare of his brother. This is the right time, this is the right place he has come. Neither earlier, neither too soon, nor too late. He has come correctly. So, Anjaneya was the only exception to approve of admitting Vibhishana. All the others, from Sugriva and all other Vanaras and Jambavan himself, they were opposed for a variety of reasons. Sugriva said, he has deserted his brother and come. How can you accept him? How can you trust him? Surely, these words should not have emanated from from the mouth of Sugriva. But Rama did not point out, any other person would have pointed out the irony of Sugriva accusing Vibhishana of Bhratridroga. Anybody else would have pointed out, Rama was too much of a gentleman. He bided his time, he did not say anything. But ultimately, at the end of the whole episode, you find there's a beautiful sloka. He says, when Sugriva persisted, even when Rama said that I want to see that Vibhishana is taken into our fold, he has come with folded hands, he has come with a pure heart. So we must admit him. Even then, even when the Lord made his wish public, even then Sugriva had his own reservations. At that time, Rama told Sugriva, not all brothers are like my brother Bharata. Not all sons are like me. It is not a statement of self-praise, but merely a statement of fact. You cannot see another son like Rama. Then, to soften the subtle blow, he said, not all friends are like you, Sugriva. Na sarve bhratarastate bhavanti bharatopamaha madvidava pitu putraha sugridova bhavadvidaha. Not all brothers are like Bharata. Surely you cannot aspire to the same kind of fraternal relationship with your brother, which I have with Bharata or Bharata has with me. That is the hidden meaning, that is the hidden import. Now, when Vibhishana came, he came with a prayer on his lips. He came with a song in his heart, as the phrase goes, because he knew that the Lord would not reject him. He was sure that he would be accepted by the Lord. Sarvaloka Sharanyaya Raghavaya Mahatmane Nivedekatamam Shipram Vibhishanam Upastitam. Sarvaloka Sharanya, one who offers succor to the entire world. There is no distinction, there is no differentiation. He is my man, I will take him. He is not my man, so I must not take him. There is no such differentiation on any score. Sarvaloka Sharanyaya Raghavaya Mahatmane. That is the kind of trust that Rama inspired. Even in the hordes of his enemies, they were sure that if only they approach Rama with sincerity of purpose and integrity of heart and trustfulness, he would definitely accept them. That is the implication which is hidden in the one single word, Arya. Definitely he would give succor. This is one of the criteria which determine whether a Sharanagata is correct in his stand or not. For a Sharanagata to be considered a perfect Sharanagata, he must possess 6 qualities. Rakshishyati iti vishwasaha goptrutva varanam tata anukulyasya sankalpaha pratikulyasya varjanam rakshishyati iti vishwasaha goptrutva varanam tata atmanikshepakarpanye shadvida Sharanagati. He must first be firm in his conviction that the Lord and the Lord alone is going to be of help to me. He alone can protect me. Anukulyasya sankalpaha. He alone is favorably disposed towards me. All other people in the world, they will be favorably disposed, so long as you are also favorably disposed towards them. If there is a difference of opinion, then the true colors will come into public limelight. But the Lord himself, he is alone. He alone is always favorably disposed. Whether you are a punyatma or whether you are a papi, whether you are a good person or a bad person, he alone is favorably disposed. We have without the authority of the Lord himself in the Bhagavad Gita when he says, Apichet suduracharaka bhajate ma mananya bhak Sadhureva samantavyaha samyak vyavasito yisaha. Even if a man was to be depraved, and the worst of the depraved, if he abandons all his depravity, if he comes to me and turns over a new leaf, he should not be misconstrued as a sinner. He is to be considered as a sadhu, because sadhureva samantavyaha samyak vyavasito yisaha. He has focused his entire mind, his entire attention, he has focused on me. Do not decry him, do not denigrate him. This is what the Lord says in the Gita. So, anukulyasya sankalpaha. The Lord alone is always favorably disposed towards the devotees. Pratikulyasya varjanam. That which is not in our favor, that which is not going to be conducive to our spiritual welfare or growth, that is to be abandoned. Pratikulyasya varjanam. Rakshishyati iti vishwasaha. Definitely he will protect me. This kind of staunch faith, unassailable faith must be there on the part of the Sharanagata. The person who seeks Sharanagati is called the Sharanagata. Rakshishyati iti vishwasaha goptrutva varanam tata. Gopta is the protector. The Lord alone is my protector. That kind of determination must be there in his mind. Goptrutva varanam tata atma nikshepa karpanye. Atma nikshepa is to offer oneself. Nikshepa is totally surrendering at his feet. Atma nikshepa. Karpanye. Karpanyam, it becomes a good quality in this context. In the context of Arjuna, where he was overcome by Karpanya, there it becomes a dosha, it becomes a fault. Karpanya doshopaghata svabhavaha prichyamitvam dharma sammuda chetaha yachrayasyan nishchitam bruhitam me shishyastayam shadimam tvam prapannam. This is how he falls at the feet of Krishna and seeks that he should be instructed in what is really wholesome for him, what constitutes shreyas for him. There Karpanya is a dosha. Karpanya is the quality of a kripana, a maisa, a niggardly maisa. He does not respect himself. He does not have faith in himself. He does not know that he is actually the untrammeled spirit of the Atma. He thinks that he is merely a bundle of bones. He thinks that he is destined for much, much lesser things than what God actually created him for. That is the dosha of Karpanya in Arjuna's case. In the case of Sharanagata, the same Karpanya becomes a good quality, a virtue to be cultivated, because the quality of Karpanya in this context means that I lower myself in my own estimation. As one great wit remarked, the lower you are in your own estimation, the greater you are in the estimation of God. You must have all kinds of virtues, yet you must think that I don't have any virtue. It is not that you should be bereft of virtue. You must be full of virtue. Still, you must think my virtues are not sufficient to please the Lord. Who am I? Where is His greatness and where is my smallness? If you see, there is a difference in light years between the two. The greatness of the Lord, as Swami Deshika said in a different context in the Daya Shatakam, he said, Amisham nimnatvam vrishagiripatege unnatimapi. All the devotees who are blessed in these two avatars of Rama and Krishna, if you see those devotees, they were from a very ordinary strata of society. In the Rama avatara, you have got Nishadhanam Neta Kapikulapati Kapi Shabari Kuchera Kubjasa Vraja Yuvateha Maldekriditi. There was the leader, the chief of the hunters, Guha. He was an ordinary hunter, Nishadhanam Neta. The other person who got the grace of the Lord was a leader of monkeys, Sugriva, Kapikulapatihi. Again, from the same tribe as Guha, you have Shabari. Shabara also means belonging to the same community. Kapi Shabari. She was not well educated, she was not in possession of great riches. She did not have high position or high birth to recommend her case. Again, the Krishna Avatara, if you see, Kuchera, he was indigent to the very core. He did not have a proper meal. He did not know when the next meal was going to come, if at all it was going to come. Kuchera Kubjasa. Kubja was the hunchback. She was hunched in 3 places in her body. That is why she is called as Trivakra. Kuchera Kubjasa Vrajayuvateha. The gopis of Vrindavan. They were so illiterate, they did not know the distinction between their right hand and their left hand. They had nothing to recommend their case except for their pure and unsullied bhakti towards the Lord. Vrajayuvatayaha Malya Kriditi. There was a Malakara by name of Sulama. His profession was to weave flowers into garnets. And when the Lord gave him the greatest blessing by visiting his house, if you see the Pravesha of Krishna into Mathura, the only house that he has gone and physically graced and sanctified by his holy feet was the house of Sudama, the Malakara. All these people were of very common strain in society, yet the Lord graced them. They were blessed in different ways. Each one according to his or her own requirement, they were blessed by the Lord. Amisham Nimnatvam Vrishagiripatege Unnatimapi. See the commonality of these people who received that grace and see the supernatural nature of the Lord's Anugraha. There is no comparison at all. You cannot reach the greatness of the Lord from the ordinary commonality of these devotees. Yet, what happened was, in these two avatars, Rama Avatara and Krishna Avatara, the compassion of the Lord, which is compared to a stream of divine grace that flows, that stream overflowed its banks. What happens when a river overflows its banks? The potholes are filled up. All those protrusions which stand up like little mounds on the banks, they are all flattened. There is neither high nor low. Once the river has overflowed the banks, there is neither high nor low. Everything is samabhumi, everything is level ground. The potholes consisting of the very poor nature or ordinary nature of the devotees, and the mounts constituting the highest virtues of the Lord, all these were leveled, and the Lord and the devotees, they were brought in the same level by Daya Devi, who flowed like a stream of compassion and overflowed her banks during these two avatars. So, Amisham Nimnatvam Kapikulapatege, Vrishagiripatege, Unnatimapi, the high and the low, they are equalized by the grace of compassion of the Lord. Karpanyam refers to the thought that must arise in the mind of the devotee. The God is the greatest of the great, and here I am, the most insignificant creature in the world. I have no right to even be at the last corridor of his palace. As Kulashekara Alvar would put it, Bhritya Bhritya Paricharaka Bhritya Bhritya Bhrityasya Bhritya Itimam Smara Lokanatha. You are the entire Lord of the entire universe, Lokanatha. I have no right, I have no qualification to come anywhere near you. I am so fallen. I am so decrepit. I am so devoid of any qualities. Yet, if you merely consider for one moment in your own divine mind that this person should be considered as the last of the last, the lowest of the lowest, even if that particular position is given to me in your consideration, that will make my life truly blessed. So, Bhritya Bhritya Paricharaka Bhritya Bhritya Bhrityasya Bhritya Itimam Smara Lokanatha. I am the slave of the slave of the slave of the slaves of your lotus feet. Bhritya Bhritya Bhrityasya Bhritya Paricharaka Bhritya Bhritya Itimam Smara Lokanatha. That is the quality of Karpanya. To lower yourself in your own estimation, so that he may be touched by your humility, your self-effacing humility, and uplift you to the greatest heights that he can do. That quality is called Karpanya. Karpanya on the part of Vibhishana was such that he did not come down from the aerial path. He had come by the aerial path because as a Rakshasa he was having the power to traverse in the air. He stood there in the air, mid-air, he did not come down. Why? Because he felt this ground has been sanctified by the lotus feet of the Lord. I dare not stand on the same ground which he has sanctified by his lotus feet. That was the extent of his devotion. And only when all these 6 qualities are put together, he becomes truly a Sharanagata. Therefore, Vibhishana was accepted because he had all these qualities in abundance and enough to spare for other people to draw inspiration from. So, that is the quality of a Sharanagata. And a Sharanagata can be blessed only by a Sarvaloka Sharanya. He did not have any kind of distinction. Kim deyam kimadeyamityabidudam tam dehinam chattadishtadam vande kanchana vanchana mrigaripum mandetara shreyase kim devaihi itaraihi prapanna bharane sandeha kridbir nrina vindeyam giditani. As I was referring to the sloka of Ramabhadra Dikshita, he says, why should I go and approach other deities who have no record of protecting those who come to them for surrender? Vindeyam Giditani, if I go and approach them, people of great wisdom, people of great knowledge, they are bound to censure me, saying that I lack proper intellect and proper understanding. Kim devairitarihi prapanna bharane sandeha kudbir nrinam vindeyam giditani. If at all I approach them, people of wisdom will censure me, saying that this man does not have a proper intellect, he does not know what is right, what is wrong. Nindeyur aryanakim. Vindeyam giditani. Nindeyur aryanakim. Kindeyam kimadeyam ityaviduram tam deginam ishtadam vande kanchana vanchana mrigaripum mandetara shreyase. For the highest shreyas, I go and prostrate at the lotus feet of the Lord, Rama, who gave liberty without any distinction of whether he was worthy or not worthy of his grace. That is all these qualities, the qualities of a Sarvaloka Sharanya, who dispenses his grace without any favoritism, without any distinction between people who are worthy and people who are not worthy of it. All these qualities are found to be in an incipient form in the one single word constituted by two letters, Arya. Arya Sarva Samaschiva. He is worthy of being approached for succor in times of distress. That is the definition of the word Arya. That is what I started with some time back. So, who can be approached? The Lord alone. Because no human being can ever come anywhere near all these criteria. So, the Lord alone, Aryaha, when Narada says Rama is Arya, indirectly the message is being given. You asked for a person in whom all the virtues are accumulated. Now I am telling you of a person, not only the person in whom all virtues abide. I am telling you of the Supreme Person. I am telling you of the Paramatma himself. Aryaha sarvasamaschaiva sadaiva priyadarshanaha. Sarvasamaha. Sarvasamaha is a very interesting word. It can be translated in two ways depending on the type of samasa you choose to interpret it with. Sarvesham samaha. For all people, he appeared to be the same. There was no category of people who said, this Rama is favorably disposed towards a particular section of society. He is not favorably disposed towards me. There was no such complaint at all. Everyone got a feeling that he is always on their side, always for their welfare. Sarvesham samaha. As far as Rama was concerned, sarve samaha yasya sakha sarva samaha. When you interpret it according to the rules of Bahuvriki Samasa, then this meaning is derived. As far as Rama was concerned, all were same to him. There was nobody who was high or low, nobody who was liked or disliked in his view. He was the ideal king. In the Bhagavata, when the Lord incarnated himself as Prithu, there is a sloka which describes how Prithu was towards his subjects. In the Bhagavata it says, Samasarveshu bhuteshu, he was same towards all creatures, not merely human beings. He was same towards all creatures. Samasarveshu bhuteshu, like the sun. The sun gives light and heat in equal measure. It does not make any distinction between whether this person requires this heat, whether this person requires this light or not, there is no distinction at all. Likewise, a king must be absolutely equal in his view towards all his subjects. Aryaha sarva samaschaiva, in the case of Rama, sarva samasarveshu bhuteshu pratapanne, he was like the sun in his equality of vision. Aryaha sarva samaschaiva. The closest example we can think of is that of great saints, particularly of the 20th century, who happen to be very close to us in point of time. The Mahaswami of Kanchi was one such. There was no favoritism, nobody who was liked or nobody who was disliked. Ramana Maharshi was another saint of the same caliber. He used to have his food along with all the other inmates of the ashram, and he was very particular that not a single extra morsel should be served to him. The same quantity, the same quality of food which was served to everybody had to be served to him. If somebody out of excess devotion served an extra spoon of a delicacy, he would not bear it. That was the equality that he practiced throughout Ramana Maharshi. In the case of Mahaswami, I am reminded of a wonderful statement made by the late Balakrishna Joshi, who was a great educationist. Once speaking at a public meeting, he said, "It requires singular misfortune of the highest order to escape the impartial gaze of His Holiness. Whether you are a punyatma or a papi, the same karuna kataksha, the same glance of compassion flowed from his eyes. There was no distinction at all." I will give you one very practical example to illustrate this even-handedness. The Maharaja of Sandur, Gorpade by name, he was a photography buff. I am talking of those days when digital photography was not in vogue, and the statement that photographs don't lie was very much true. He spent a lot of time, about 15 years. The last 15 years of the mortal sojourn of His Holiness the Mahaswami of Kanchi, the Sandur Maharaja was constantly having his darshan, and he has recorded his darshan experiences during the last 15 years, that is from 1979 to 1994 or so, in the form of a diary which contains innumerable photographs. He was a photography buff. You would all have seen the photo of the Mahaswami in a sitting posture in the middle of a stream on a rock, which is right hand raised like that. That particular photograph was taken by Gorpade, the Sandur Maharaja. I happened to read that book in diary format. Twice I have read that. Once on my own, once when I was the guest of somebody in some city. There was a book in their house. I had occasion to go through that book once again. There is a photograph there. The Vice President of India, B.D. Jetty, who happened to be the Vice President of India at that time, he was having darshan of His Holiness. His secretary or assistant was there by his side. The darshan took place in a very rural atmosphere under the shade of a tree. There was no special shamiyana erected, no sofas, no seating arrangements. The Mahaswami was seated on the bare floor under a tree, perhaps reminiscent of the Dakshinamurti under the banyan tree. He was seated there. In front of the Mahaswami, you have got B.D. Jetty and his personal secretary. Keeping the Vice President of India waiting, the Mahaswami was turning to his right or left and looking at an old woman, a frail old woman, who was a flower seller by profession. As if he had no other better work in the entire world, he was talking to her because of her pure devotion. The Vice President of India or the President of India and a poor flower seller, they were all one and the same to him. There is no difference at all. That is how a real king should be. That is how a real ascetic also should be. He was the king of ascetics. Mahaswami was the king of ascetics. And you have got an ascetic among kings because Rama, he took to the forest like an ascetic. These are the words of Sri Shukacharya in the Bhagavata. Tyaktva yayo vanam asuniva mukta sangaha. He went to the forest like a mukta sangha, one who has sacrificed all sangha, one who is not associated with anything in the phenomenal world, even at the mental level. He was a true ascetic because he was able to renounce the entire kingdom in a moment. Renounce it mentally as well, not merely physically, not merely verbally. He could renounce the kingdom mentally in a trice and take to the forest life as a duck takes to water. He was absolutely comfortable. As much, I should say, he was more comfortable in the forest than he was comfortable in the royal environs of Ayodhya. We have got Bhattatri's word on this. He says, when he was quite happy with Sita for 12 years after their marriage, when they were with all royal comforts and luxuries in Ayodhya, Sukamiga Nivasan Kantaya Kantamurte. When he was in Chitrakuta, in the heart of the forest, without any of these comforts, without the knowledge whether the next meal would come to him or not, when he was in such a state, he was more happy, he was happier than he was in Ayodhya. There it is Sukamiga Nivasan Kantaya Kantamurte. In Chitrakuta, the words used are Atisukhamavasaha Chitrakute Girindre. Bhattati is a poet. He can say anything he wants. How do you take it as an authority? Bhattacharya was not an ordinary poet. He was a devotee of the first order, whose devotion inspired the Lord to nod his head in concurrence with what he said for each and every sloka. So, it is a sloka for which the Lord himself has accorded his concurrence. That is why Atisukhamavasaha Chitrakute Girindre. The Samatva, the equal vision, which is the heart of yoga. Samatvam yoga uchyate, as the Lord would say in the Gita, that Samatvam did not stop with being equally concerned about every single subject in his country. It extended to his own personal perception of things in life, his personal view of sorrows or joys in life. He was equally praised. Samas sarveshu bhuteshu, here Samaha Aryaha Sarva Samaschaiva. Sarva Samaha means, we started with the meaning, he is equally disposed to all his subjects. There is no distinction between poor or wealthy, no distinction between the scholarly and the illiterate, no distinction between those who are of noble birth and those who are of common birth. There is no distinction between male and female, or all one and same to him. Aryaha Sarva Samaschaiva. That is one meaning of the word Sarva Samaha. Sarva Samaha also means all circumstances were the same to him. Whether he was in Ayodhya, whether he was crowned as the king, whether he was the Yuvaraja or the Raja, whether he was in the forest, whether he was wailing and ranting and raving in the separation from Sita, or whether he was quietly sitting in contemplation, all these states were same to him. There was no distinction at all. He was in the inner quietude, the inner bliss that was his, was always the same. Arjaha sarvasamaschaiva sadaiva priyadarshanaha. Sadaiva priyadarshanaha. He was always handsome to look at. And that beauty did not flow from the outer appearance of the skin. That is very important. External beauty has got only a temporary, momentary effect. If you see a beautiful person, okay, you think he or she is a beautiful person, that's all. It doesn't last. Especially, many people realize this after marriage. Before marriage, one is carried away by the external form. After marriage, when you start living together and you are faced with the nitty-gritty of daily life, then the external beauty melts away. Unless there is an inner beauty of the soul, the inner beauty which is cultivated by all these virtues and all these good qualities, unless that inner beauty is there, the dampatya will not be successful. The household life will not be a harmonious one. External beauty is momentary, the inner beauty is eternal. So, sadaiva priyadarshanaha. He was always pleasing to look at. We are not like that. Take an example. Can you say that a person who is very beautiful at the age of 18 or 20, the same beauty will continue to persist at the age of 70 or 80? Certainly not. You lose your teeth, you lose your comeliness of form, you lose your vigor, you lose your enthusiasm in life, you lose a lot of things. Most importantly, you also lose heart. At a very later period in your life, you lose heart. You are not confident of meeting life on its terms. How can you say that the beauty is constant? It is not at all so. If you want to have a practical demonstration of that, senior citizens, if you can dig up the old albums of your marriage and show it to your grandchildren, I am sure none of the grandchildren will ever recognize the grandfather or grandmother in the photo. They will only say some uncle or auntie is there, that's all. Because there are a lot of changes in 30 or 40 years of marriage. There are a lot of physical changes which make the figure unidentifiable even by the person himself or herself concerned. That is the transitory nature of beauty in the world. You don't have to wait for 30 or 40 years. If you go to bed and get up in the morning, we are not presentable to the external world. That is why we want to go to the bathroom, freshen up. Before showing our face outside, we want to freshen up in the bathroom. We are unable to look at our own face in the mirror. After 6 or 7 hours of sleep, we are unable to look at our own face in the mirror. If you are beset with some kind of health problem, if you are suffering from dysentery or diarrhea, you become withered like a faded bean. You are not presentable to the world at all. That is the transitory nature of beauty, physical beauty. When you say that he was always presentable, Sadaiva Priyadarshana, not only presentable, he was so calmly in form as to attract everybody. Normally, the law of nature is that like poles repel and unlike poles attract. That is the basic law of nature. That is why males and females are attracted to each other. It's a biological thing. At the appropriate age, they are attracted to each other. In the case of Rama, he was attracted, he was a center of attraction for males also. Pumsam mohana rupaya punyashlokaya mangalam. Even males were attracted by the handsomeness of Rama. Now, it is a very psychological thing. No man will ever concede that another man is more handsome than himself. No lady will concede that another lady is more beautiful than herself. But in the case of Rama, the entire community of men also, if men were themselves, they were attracted to Rama. It is needless to say that he was the epitome of beauty, the epitome of handsomeness. Saundaryottarato sundarataram, in the words of Bhattatri, he says, sweetness is a rasa. It's a taste to be savored. If you can conceive of something which is sweeter than sweetness itself incarnate, if you can conceive, if you can imagine something which is more beautiful than beauty itself personified, how will you describe that particular object? How will you describe? That is what Guru Ayappan stands for. He is beauty, more beautiful than beauty itself. He is more sweet, he is sweeter than sweetness itself. He is more effulgent than effulgence itself. Yatrailokyamagiyasopi magitam sammohanam mohanat kantam kanti nidhanatopi maduram madhurya dhuryadapi saundaryottarato sundaratanam twadrupam ascharyatopi ascharyam bhuvane nakasya kutukam pushnati vishno vibho. Always he was pleasing to look at. Sadaiva Priyadarshana. It only means one thing. In the words of Kamban, Ayyo ivan vadivenbadu or Ariya Aragudayan. His form is a form of eternal beauty. Ariya Aragudayan. In the words of the English poet, a thing of beauty is a joy forever. A thing. When you say "ye," it denotes singular. So, it is singular beauty. There is only one beauty of that type. There cannot be two beauties because he is referring to the one and the only Atma Swarupa, which is the eternal beauty, source of eternal beauty. The very Lord, the Advitiya Vastu, has incarnated himself as Rama. That is why he is Sadaiva Priyadarshana at all times. Not only Sadaiva Priyadarshana, to all people also. Kascheka Priyadarshana. The question was, Kascheka Priyadarshana in the words of Valmiki. One who is always pleasing to everybody. He says, Narada says he is not only pleasing to everybody, he is pleasing at all times also. Sadaiva Priyadarshanaha. Kascha Eka Priyadarshanaha. Contrasted with the answer, Sadaiva Priyadarshanaha. Aryaha Sarva Samaschaiva Sadaiva Priyadarshanaha. I am propelled to go back a couple of words. I thought I had exhausted the contours of the word Arya. But the Lord reminds me that I am not yet done. We were talking of Vibhishana and the 6 attributes of Sharanagati which he possessed in abundance. It is no surprise that he was granted asylum by the Lord. But Sharanagati, if you want to see the quality of Sharanagata Vatsalyam in the Lord, the compassion towards those who surrender, you must not go to the episode of Vibhishana, because Vibhishana was a perfect candidate. It is something like a teacher saying, I have made this person pass in first class. That boy or girl was always getting 90% above in all the examinations. So there is no credit to the teacher. Only a teacher who can make a person who was getting marks in single digits, if that person can be elevated and if he or she can be made to obtain marks of 90 or above, then the credit goes to the teacher. Likewise, in the case of Vibhishana, the Lord does not get more credit. The credit goes to Vibhishana because he had all the attributes of Sharanagata. If you want to see the Sharanagata Vatsalyam, the compassion towards those who surrender, then you must go to the episode of Kakasura. Here you have got somebody who was directly in conflict with the Lord and his spouse, the Divine Mother Sita. He dared to violate the person of Sita, which Ravana did not dare to do. He objected. He did not dare to violate the person of the Divine Mother. Well, because of this, the curse which was pronounced on him by Brahma, whatever be the reason, he did not dare to violate the person of Sita. Whereas Kakasura dared to do so. In spite of this gravest provocation, the Lord chose to forgive him and only extract a token price, because he had already used the Brahmastra, and the Brahmastra could not be sent back without extracting a price. The Kakasura offered a right eye as a token of submission to the Brahmastra, but he was spared his life. Why? Because Valmiki says in very clear terms, Satam Nipatitum Bhumu Sharanyaha Sharanagatam. He went to all the 3 worlds seeking succor. Nobody was prepared to give him succor. He went to the Devas, he went to the Rishis, he went even to Dasharatha and said, I made a mistake. Give me one chance to correct myself. You please plead my case with Rama. Ask him to excuse me. Dasharatha said, no, look here. He was my son. So long as I was in the mortal world, he was son and I was his father, no doubt. Now I have come to the Pitaloka. It is not correct that I should now direct him as to how he should conduct himself in a particular circumstance. It is not correct. If you have got a grievance with Rama, if you have got something to say, you go and directly tell it to him. Don't come to me. I will not intercede on your behalf. When he was forsaken by all the Devas, by all the Rishis, and by Dasharatha himself, and by his own father Indra, when he was forsaken by all these things, he came to the one person who would never forsake him. That is Rama. Where is the reference to Dasharatha? Where is the reference to Rama's father in the sloka? In the Sundarakanda, this episode comes. Where is the reference? People who are regularly reading the Sundarakanda, they may be familiar with this sloka. There the sloka is Sapitracha Parityaktaha Surai Sarvegi Maharshibhi Trin Lokan Samparikramya Tameva Sharanangataha Satam Nipatitum Bhumu Sharanyaha Sharanagatam. Sapitracha Parityaktaha. He was forsaken by his own father. Own is not there. Sapitracha Parityaktaha. He was forsaken by the father, whose father is not specified in this sloka. Whether it was Kakasura's father Indra or Rama's father Dasharatha who forsook him, that is not made clear. So the sloka is open to both these interpretations. Sapitracha Parityaktaha Surai Sarvaihi Maharshibhigi Satam Nipatitum Bhumu Sharanyaha Sharanagatam Vadargam Apika Kustaha Kripaya Paryapadayat. Ultimately, finding no other solace, no other succor, he came back to the person whom he had offended in the greatest manner, in the gravest manner, and fell at his feet. Rama immediately chose to spare his life for the one single reason. I will not go into the details of the episode that is part of the Sundarakanda. As I said earlier, we are not in a descriptive mode, we are in an analytical mode. So I will not go into the nitty-gritty of the story as such. There are various reasons adduced, but the main and the only acceptable reason is why Rama chose to spare the life of Kakasura, though his offense was graver than that of Ravana. Ravana did not violate the person of the Divine Mother, which Kakasura dared to do. Why, in spite of grave misdemeanor, why he was spared his life is because he came and fell at the feet of Rama, which Ravana did not do. Because he fell at his feet, he was saved his life. So, Aryaha, one who has to be approached in times of distress, when your very life is at stake, when the Brahmastra is chasing you, and you don't find succor in any of the three worlds, in the heavens, in the nether worlds, in the mortal world, you don't have anybody else to protect you, then there is only one protector, and that is the Lord. That is why he is called Arya. Aryaha Sarva Samaschiva. Swami Deshikan, in his Kamasika Ashtakam, posits this in a very wonderful way. The Kamasika Ashtakam is in praise of Lord Nrsimha, who adorns the bank of the Vegabati, a river which constituted one of the natural boundaries of the Kanchipuram, the other boundary being the river Kampa. The place between these two streams, between these two life-giving rivers, was called Kanchipuram in the ancient times. Both these rivers are now Antarvagini, they have disappeared. You cannot go, if you go to Kanchipuram, you cannot see either Vegavati or Kampa. But in ancient times, these two were the natural boundaries of the Kanchi Kshetra. The Vegavati Nadi was adorned by the Lord in his form as Narsimha. And the Kamasika Ashtakam is a stotra, a hymn in his praise. He says, Toi rakshati rakshakaigi kimanyegi, Toi cha arakshati rakshakaigi kimanyegi, iti nischita digi shrayami nityam, nrigare vegavati tatashrayam tvam. If you say that you are going to protect me, I don't require any other protector. If you give up and say, I will not protect you, no other protector can ever protect me. There is no use in approaching any other protector. You are the one and the only protector of the world. You are the only Vishwagupta. Vishwagupta is the word which Arjuna uses in the Gita while prostrating before the Lord. Vishwagupta. So, Vishwagupta means one who protects the entire world. He is Arya. The one person who has got to be approached when you are in difficulty. That is why he is also called Artatrana Parayana, Abad Bandhava. A host of appellations are used to describe the compassion of the Lord to those who are suffering and those who are in sorrow. Artatrana Parayana. Arti is a kind of difficulty, is a kind of sorrow which is too delicate to be shared with anybody else. At the same time, it is so poignant, you cannot simply gulp and digest it. You cannot keep to yourself, you cannot share it with somebody else. That is the kind of dukkha, that is the kind of sorrow which is termed as arti. And for those who are afflicted by arti, those who cannot share it with any other mortal being, they can share it only with the Lord. And for those who share, or even those who don't share, but keep to themselves and pray to the Lord, He is there always to render succor. Artatrana Parayana. He is not only Artatrata, He is Artatrana Parayana. He is totally focused on protecting those who are afflicted by sorrow. That is why he is Arya. That is why he is Abad Bandhava. That is why he is Artatrayana Parayana. So the Kakasura Vrittanta showing the complete lack of virtue on the part of one who surrenders, and the Vibhishana Sharanagati showing the total presence of all the attributes of a Sharanagata. They are studies in contrast. One Kakasura who did not have a single quality to recommend him, Vibhishana who had all the qualities to recommend him, both were equally graced by the Lord. So he is Sarvasama. Aryaha Sarvasamaschiva Sadaiva Priyadarshana. He was Priyadarshana even in the eyes of Shurpanaka. He was equally Priyadarshana for Sita also. Sita was the spouse who was constantly with him throughout his life. Shurpanaka came as a momentary blitzkrieg, but she was also struck by his appearance. That is why, by describing Rama, Shurpanaka does one better than Anjaneya himself, with apologies to Anjaneya. That is how scholars interpret it. When Rama's beautiful form was sought to be described by Anjaneya. He said, Rama Kamalapatraksha. The eyes of the Lord are always naturally very long. They extend up to the ear. Akarna means up to the ear. But he used the short syllable to describe the long-eyed Rama Kamalapatraksha. Whereas Shurpanaka used the long syllables to describe this long-eyed beauty of the Lord. Pundarika Vishalakshau Chira Krishna Jinambaro. So whether it is Shurpanaka or Sita or Anjaneya, whether it is a man or a Vanara, everybody is equally drawn to him. Sadaiva Priyadarshanaha Sacha Sarva Gunopetaha Kausalyanandavardhanaha Aryaha Sarva Samaschaiva Sadaiva Priyadarshanaha. We have completed half a sloka. After 1 hour, we have completed just half a sloka. Aryaha sarva samaschaiva sadaiva priyadarshanaha sacha sarva gunopetaha. Narada thought, if I start describing the virtues of the Lord, there is no end to it. As one great poet said, Sankhyatum nagibi shakyaha gunaha doshascha sharginaha. Sharngin is one who holds the divine bow Sharanga in his hand. He is none other than the Lord Narayana himself. It is impossible to describe the virtues or the faults of the Lord. This is not a blasphemous statement. You say, I cannot count the virtues, understandable. From a point of view of a devotee, it's understandable. The virtues are innumerable, so I cannot count. He says, Sankhyatum nagivi shakyaha. Sankhyatum is to count. It is not possible to count. Sankhyatum nagivi shakyaha gunaha doshascha sharanginaha. Even the faults of the Lord cannot be counted. Why? Because you cannot count a non-existing quality. If supposing there are flowers here, there are 2 roses here, you can say 1 rose, 2 roses. There is no lotus here. Can you say 1 lotus? Can you count on your fingers? There is 1 lotus, second lotus, 1 lotus is absent, 2 lotuses are absent. Can you say that? It is a ridiculous thing. You can count only that which is present. So, faults, there are no faults at all in the Lord, so you cannot count the faults. The qualities are innumerable, so you cannot count them. Sankhyatum nagiveshikyaha gunaha doshascha sharanginaha. Likewise, Narada thought, if I start describing the virtues, there is no end to it. Somewhere I have got to conclude. And after all, this sarga is supposed to be called the Sankshepa Ramayana. As it is, the Sankshepa Ramayana has become Vistara Ramayana in our case. The last 4 days we have been seeing the gunas as expatiated by Narada. Narada perhaps thought that the best way would be to use an all-encompassing word which will say that there is no virtue in the world that the Lord does not possess. And if there is a quality that Rama does not possess, it is not virtuous. That is how we should understand it. As it was said in the Mahabharata, whether it is dharma, artha, or kama, or moksha, the 4 purusharthas of human existence, anything that is to be found in the world is to be found in the Mahabharata, and what is not to be found in the Mahabharata is not to be found anywhere else. Dharme cha, arthe cha, kame cha, mokshe cha, bharatarshaba, yadihasti tadanyatra, yanneha asti na kutrachit. This is the plighted word of Veda Vyasa while composing the Mahabharata. Likewise, it may be said that any virtue that is to be found in Rama, that same virtue alone is to be seen somewhere else. But all these are to be found in a concentrated form in Rama. In other places, you may see 1 or 2 virtues in a dispersed fashion. But if you want everything to be found in one personality, which is only in Rama and Rama alone, and that virtue which is not to be found in Rama is not a virtue at all. It is not to be found anywhere in the world. So, to convey this entire wealth of meaning, Narada uses a wonderful word, Sacha Sarva Gunopetaha. He was possessed of all the virtues that you can think of. There is nothing to be excluded, because however exhaustively you may say, there is always a chance that some virtue may get left out. There is nothing left out. So he says, Sacha Sarva Gunopetaha Kausalyanandavardhanaha. I have given these virtues of so many slokas only in an illustrative fashion, not in an exhaustive way. To indicate this, he says, Sacha Sarva Gunopetaha Kausalyanandavardhanaha. It is common knowledge in the world that a child, though he or she may be bereft of inequality, he or she is always the darling of the mother. There is no doubt about it. What to say of a person who is the abode of all virtue, how much joy he would have given to his mother, and especially to a mother who had waited for thousands of years without giving birth to a child, and who was open to the charge that she was incapable of bearing a child. And in spite of all these things, after so many years, thousands of years, when Kausalya was blessed by having Rama as a child, what would have been her joy? And how much more greater that joy would have been when she came to know that all the virtues were to be found in her son. She had a son like no other mother could ever have dreamt of in the world. How much great her joy would have been, greater her joy would have been. In the words of Thiruvalluvar, ஈன்ற பொழுதினும் பெருதுவக்கும் தன் மகன் சான்றோன் என கேட்ட தாய். That is why he says, Sacha Sarva Gunopetaha. The next word is Kausalyanandavardhanaha. The joy increased by day, by moment. Kausalyananda, he was not merely the giver of joy to Kausalya. He was a person because of whom Kausalya's joy grew by leaps and bounds, moment to moment. Kausalyanandavardhanaha. He gave increasing amounts of joy to Kausalya. I am reminded of two other places where this Kausalyanandavardhana has been used by Valmiki. This is in the Balaganda where Narada says. In the Ayodhya Kanda, you have got a beautiful scenario when Rama is being driven in the chariot by Subhadra to Kaikeyi's palace. Kaikeyi has had Rama summoned so that she may convey to him the news of the two boons granted by Dasharatha, so that he can be sent to the forest in exile. At that time, none of the people in Ayodhya, none of the people who had assembled there from the neighboring countries, nobody had any inkling that there was going to be a total change in the situation. They were all prepared to witness the coronation of Rama as Yuvaraja. There was no inkling of anything else, anything controversial. But at that time, when Rama is being brought in the chariot, the entire royal pathway was lined on both sides by hordes of citizens, thousands of citizens. They wanted to feast their eyes on Rama's beauty, admire his form, and get a greater satisfaction of the self. There Valmiki says, a beautiful sloka, if a person did not see Rama at that time, supposing a person is blind by birth, what will he do? How will he see? At least he should have asked somebody, one of his aides, to hold him by the hand and bring him to the place where Rama was passing by, so that if he was not able to see Rama, at least he would be seen by Rama. If you are unable to see Rama, if you are not seen by Rama also, then the entire world will censure you. Why talk of the entire world? Your own antaratma, your own inner mind will censure you. Fee upon you. You have been born in Ayodhya in the Treta Yuga, in the time of Rama. You have not seen Rama, you have not been seen by Rama. I entered this body because I thought I would be blessed by the vision of the Lord. Having been in that particular city, having been in that particular time, and having been in the path of Rama's vision, yet you have been denied the divine vision. It is a waste. I have been wasting myself entering this body. That is why that is how the Antaratma would censure this particular person. Yascharamam na pashyetu, yancharamo na pashyati. Nindita sabhaver loke, swatma api yenam vigargate. Swatma api. When the word api is used, is always used to indicate something which is contrary to one's intrinsic nature. That is how the Shastras define api virode, that is the sutra. It is used when there is a contrary to when there is something contrary to the real nature, then the word api is used. Swatma api, normally nobody ever upbraids himself or herself. This is human nature. When something wrong is done, if somebody does that wrong, you will blame him, you will blame her. When you do the same wrong, what you will do, you will try to justify it by hundreds of reasons. I did not intend to do this. I was a victim of circumstances. All those things. That is why you have got an adage in Tamil which says, Mamiyar odacha mangalam, Maatupun odacha vengalam. That is how the saying goes in Tamil. When somebody else does it, you censure, you upbraid. When you yourself do the same thing, you find out a host of reasons justifying the fact. But in this particular case, your own mind would upbraid you for not having darshan of the Lord. Swatma api yenam vigargate. Yascharamam napashyetu. Yancharamo napashyati ninditasya bhavel loke swatmapi yehenam vigarhate. This is the frame of mind of thousands of citizens which have found expression through the words of Valmiki. At that time, there was also somebody to explain, as recorded by Valmiki, Rama, we are all here, blessed to have your vision. As you come in the chariot, we are there to see your divine form. But if there is one person who will be happiest of the whole lot, it is not the citizens of Ayodhya. It is not even your father Dasharatha, however affectionate he may be towards you. There is one person greater in the experience of joy on seeing you, greater than Dasharatha, greater than all these citizens of the country, greater than your brothers Bharata, Lakshmana or Shatrughna, greater than everybody else. There is one person, and that is Kausalya. Nunam nandati te mata Kausalya nandavardhana. Your mother will be the person to experience the greatest bliss on seeing you in this state when you are just about to be crowned as your Raja. Nunam nandati te mata Kausalya nandavardhana. There is a modern parallel to this sloka which I will share with you. I had a good friend. Perhaps it is taking a little bit of liberty to refer to this gentleman as a friend because he was some years older than my father. He is unfortunately no more. He was a dear friend. We were very close. He retired as an official in some government department or something. But despite the service, he was born in a very illustrious family and he studied some of Shastras and Itihasas from his own father. And he used to discourse on Ramayana in his spare time as a hobby. He did not come into the limelight. He was doing it for his own satisfaction. Once when he went for darshan of Mahaswami of Kanchi, the Mahaswamigal asked him, are you still narrating the Ramayana? With a hesitant nod, he said, because he was not invited to many public places. He was doing on his own, off and on, at random intervals. With a hesitant nod, he said, yes. How do you narrate the Ramayana? When the Mahaswami asked a question like this, which speaker can give an answer? How do you narrate the Ramayana? The Swami himself, he gave him the answer. When you talk of the Ramayana, when you narrate the Ramayana, it should not merely be to make people laugh at small jokes. That should not be your approach. It should be done with teary-eyed devotion. You should be melting in your heart. You must also make other people feel in their heart. Their emotions must take over. They must feel so full of emotion that their devotion overpowers them. That is why the exact words which the Mahaswami used in Tamil were Shirike Shirike Solapadadu, Ada Solama Ramayana. Then again he asked, are you narrating the Ramayana? This man, poor man, was dumbfounded for a moment. Then the Mahaswami advised him, even if nobody else listens to you, you go and tell to your mother. Your mother will appreciate your Ramayana. And he quoted this particular sloka, Nunam nandati te mata Kausalya nandavardhana. This is the second reference which comes to my mind immediately. The third reference to Kausalya nandavardhana, this is in Ayodhya Kanda. The first is in the Bala Kanda we are seeing. The second is Ayodhya Kanda, Nunam nandati te mata Kausalya nandavardhana. The third reference is in the Yuddha Kanda. In the one preceding sarga, which immediately precedes the Pattabhisheka sarga, the 130th sarga of the Yuddha Kanda, there the citizens who have assembled there in multitudes to welcome Rama after his 14 years of exile to the forest. All of them, they were having sweets in their hand, Naraha Modaka Hastascha, and they said, we are all very extremely happy to have you back in our midst after 14 years. But there is one person who will be the happiest to see you, and that is your mother. She has survived 14 years without your father. She has survived 14 years in the sole hope of seeing you coming back to Ayodhya. That is the only motivation just kept her alive. Swagatam te mahabaho Kausalyanandavardhana. Swagatam te Mahabaho Kausalyanandavardhana. There cannot be a greater joy that a son or a daughter can give to his parents than to make his parents proud of him or her. And that is what Rama did. That is why he said, Sacha Sarva Gunopetaha Kausalyanandavardhana. This is supported by that famous verse which was articulated by Vishwamitra in the wee hours of the morning while waking up the Lord, the words which has become synonymous with Suprabhatams. Whatever be the deity, whatever be the occasion, a Suprabhatam has necessarily got to begin with these divine words, these 32 letters, which have become immortal. Kausalya Supraja Rama. He did not say Dasharatha Supraja Rama. He could have equally said, because he is equally a child to Dasharatha as he is to Kausalya. The one is the father, the other is the mother. What is the difference? But yet Vishwamitra chose to immortalize the mother. Kausalya Supraja Rama Purva Sandhya Pravartate Uttishta Narashardula Kartavyam Daivamannikam. There is a very interesting reason why Vishwamitra chose to address Rama as Kausalya Supraja Rama in that immortal verse. There are various reasons. Again, I will not go into all those reasons because that is the subject of one day's discourse by itself. Kausalya Supraja Rama Purva Sandhya Pravartate. I will confine myself to only one commentary, one interpretation. The Puranas and the Itihasas, they give us a peep into how Vishwamitra was born. Vishwamitra's father Gadi had a daughter who was elder. Vishwamitra was born much later. This Gadi had a daughter called Satyavati. She was given in marriage to the sage Richika, who was the very epitome of all mantras. He was a mantra murti. He was the embodiment of all mantras. One day, Gadi's wife, she came to visit her daughter, and she asked her daughter to intercede on her behalf with her husband Richika and get some kind of spiritually blessed prasada which should make her the mother of a son to continue the race of the Kusha Vamsha, Kaushika Vamsha. Now, Satyavati, what she did, she approached her husband and said, I would like to have a charu, that is the blessed portion which is called charu. I would like to have a charu for my mother. Please also bless me with a charu so that I can also beget a son who will continue this race. Now, Richika, he gave two charus, blessed two charus and gave, and told his wife, this is for your mother, this is for you. He went for his second bath before the Mahadhyanikam, he went to the river for his bath. In the meantime, this mother had a wrong idea. She thought this charu which is blessed for Satyavati would have been blessed much more because, after all, the wife is the first and closest relation of the husband. The mother-in-law comes a distant second. So, let me take her charu and let her take my charu. You can always get another charu, you can always get another blessed part from your husband. I cannot go and pester my son-in-law time and again. So you please exchange your charu with mine. This appeared to be correct to Satyavati. She exchanged the charus with her mother. Both of them partook of it. In the meantime, we finished his Madhyanika ablutions and came back from the river. And Richika was little angered to know that Satyavati had flouted his express directions and changed his charus. He said, you are the wife of a rishi. Therefore, the son to be born in your womb should be full of Brahmic virtue. He must be full of Brahma Tejas. For that purpose, I had specifically chanted some incantations before giving this charu to you. Your mother is the wife of a king, so the son to be born to her must have all the Kshatriya qualities of valor, of courage, of being steadfast in battle. All these qualities must be there. So, for that purpose, I chanted some different incantations while giving the charu for your mother. Now you have changed. So, your brother is going to be born as a Brahmagyani, whereas your son will be very cruel in nature. Bhratade Brahmavittamaha. Your son will be very cruel, your brother will be a Brahmagyani. Now, Satyavati did not expect that this kind of a specialized incantation would have been behind these charus. So she was taken aback. She fell at the feet of her husband and requested him, "Now I don't mind my brother being born as a Brahmagyani. Goro Dandadara Putraha, you said. Let not my son be cruel in nature. I cannot imagine it. I cannot tolerate it." Richika said, "You have now realized you are repentant for what you have done, but repentance will not change the course of the mantra. You cannot alter the effect of the mantra. Because you have come and fallen at my feet, because you have expressed your remorse and repentance for what you have done, I will do one thing. I will ensure that the effect of this mantra of the charu which has been partaken by you will not come to the next generation. It will be postponed by the space of one more generation. The Goro Dandadara Putraha will be converted into Goro Dandadara Pautraha. Your son will not be like that, but your grandson, your son's son, will be Gora. He will be full of cruelty." That is how Richika said. Thus it came to pass that Satyavati's mother, Gadi's wife, she, after partaking of this charu, she gave birth to Vishwamitra, who was born in a Kshatriya family, but because of the virtue of his exhaustive penance, he became a Brahmarshi in his own right to stand on equal footing with Vasishtha. In the meantime, Satyavati, she gave birth to Jamadagni, and Jamadagni's son was Parashurama, who, though he was born in a Brahmin family of priests, he took to arms and destroyed 21 succeeding generations of Kshatriyas all over the world. He was very cruel in his behavior because of the working of that particular mantra which was behind the charu. All the story is narrated only to drive home one point. Vishwamitra was not born by the normal process of Dampatya. He was born because of this charu which was imbibed by his mother, Gadi's wife. Likewise, Rama was born not because of Dampatya between Kausalya and Dasharatha. He was born because Kausalya imbibed the Payasam, which was the divine prasada, which came out of the Putragami Ishti. So, we have got something in common. I am also indebted more to my mother, as you are equally indebted to your mother. So, let me, in my Suprabhatam, let me eulogize your mother, also keeping my mother in mind. That is why he says, Kausalya Supraja Rama. So, all these things are yet to come. These are all in the future in the story. At this point of time, when Narada is giving instruction to Valmiki, all these things are in the future to give indication of the future in the present itself. That is one of the hallmarks of a great sage. It is one of the hallmarks of a great epic also. So, Kausalya Supraja Rama is going to be articulated by Vishwamitra, and Kausalya Nandavardhana by the common people of Ayodhya. Once again, after the completion of exile, to indicate all these things, one single word has been used by Narada while addressing Valmiki, Sacha Sarva Gunopetaha Kausalyanandavardhanaha Samudra Gambhirye Daihiryena Himavanibe. Samudra Gambhirye. Gambhiryam is dignity, innate dignity. Yesterday or the day before, we were talking of Adhinatma. Dainyam is a tendency to seek favors or obligations from other people. It involves a loss of self-respect. You have got to reduce yourself in stature. If not literally like Vamana did, at least figuratively you have got to reduce your stature to go and be a supplicant before somebody else. That is Dainyam. That should not be the fate of anybody. That is why we pray daily in our puja. Vina Dainyena Jivanam. Anayasena Maranam. Vina Dainyena Jivanam. Degime Kripagashambho Tvai Bhaktim Achanchalam. Without Dainya, without being obligated to anybody. If you want to hold your head high and be sure that your self-respect is not eroded, one single important virtue which we have got to impart to our children, more by practice rather than by precept, is this: don't ever seek favors from anybody. Take life as it comes, whether it's good or bad. Don't go and seek obligations from anybody. If you conduct your life like that, you can always hold your head high. You are not obligated to anybody. Even the devotee of Rama would not seek favors from anybody. Even when the favors come to him unsought, he is not enamored, he doesn't want. And the classic instance of this great lack of dainyam, Vina Dainyena Jivanam, is Tyagaraja. To all intents and purposes, to all external appearances, Tyagaraja's life was, in economic terms, a life of penury. He was a Unchavarti Brahmana. He subsisted on what God offered from day to day. There was no thought of the morrow. There was no saving for the morrow. There was no, sometimes there was no sufficient grain to feed him on that particular day itself. He led the life of a Unchavarti Brahmana. Yet, when the royal summons came, the Raja, he wanted Tyagaraja to adorn his court. He sent his messenger with all the insignia of royal munificence, a lot of clothes, a lot of jewels, and all those indications of wealth to follow. Yet Tyagaraja did not reply directly to the messengers or to the king. In his own humble and modest way, he sang a kirtana, a composition in Kalyani, which is very famous. Nidhi Chada Sukama Ramuni Sannidhi Seva Sukama. He is not bothered about the royal wealth or what benefits that royal association can bring to him. He wants only to be left alone to pursue his devotion to Rama without any kind of interruption. Doesn't matter if you don't have food to eat. Doesn't matter if you don't have anything to drink. Doesn't matter if you don't have a roof over your head. Nothing else matters. I want to be left alone with Rama. That is all. I don't want anything to come in between my devotion and my Rama. I don't want anything. That is the spirit of the Kirtana. Nidhi Chara Sukama Ramuni Sannidhi Seva Sukama. If a saint like Tyagaraja, who was an ardent devotee of Rama and devoted his entire life to Rama Bhakti, if he could say, I don't have any dainyam at all, because I am not obligated to any king. I am obligated to only one king, and that is the Raja, that is Jagat Anandakaraka. The entire world will be immersed in bliss by thought of the Rama. That is what many people, they don't understand the lyric behind it. So sometimes there is a tendency to sing it as Jagat Andakaraka. He is not Andakaraka, Jagat Anandakaraka. He is the bestower of bliss on the entire world. So when saints and sages who have surrendered at his feet, if they can be totally free from dainyam, there is a question of the Lord himself having dainyam. He will not go and seek favors from anybody. Even when the favors are offered to him on a platter, he will not take it for his own use. You see the Ramayana, at the end of the Yuddha-kanda, after Ravana has been brought down, Indra comes and says, I want to confer a boon on you. Ask for a boon. The Lord did not seek anything for himself. He said, let those Vanaras who have lost their life in this battle, let them be brought back to life. That is the only boon I seek from you. Again, when Dasharatha came from Pitaloka and said, I want to confer a boon on you, he says, let my mother Kaikeyi be accepted as your Dharmapatni once again. Let Bharata find favor as your own son. Let the curse that you pronounced in the fit of your anger and your sorrow, let the curse be withdrawn from Kaikeyi and Bharata. He did not seek anything from himself. Again, on his return back from Lanka to Ayodhya, where he halted for a day, he did not halt anywhere else, mind you. He halted for a day only at the hermitage of Bharadwaja, and the specific instructions of Bharadwaja that he should stay for the day and go on the morrow to Ayodhya. He stayed for a day there. And Bharadwaja said, I want to confer a boon on you. Please ask whatever boon you want. Now just imagine, he is the giver of all boons, he is Varadaraja. And here you have got a sage who had the spiritual prowess to say, I will give a boon to you, to the Lord himself, the giver of all boons. He was given a boon by the sage Bharadwaja. And then what did he ask? He said, these Vanaras have come from distant parts. They have come from all the way from Kishkinda, they came to Lanka. From Lanka, they have now come to your hermitage. They will shortly be coming to Ayodhya. I don't want to see that any of them is famished by hunger or thirst. On their way, the natural food of all these Vanaras is constituted by the fruits on the trees. You don't peel a fruit and cut it to pieces and give it to a Vanara. He must get it directly from the tree. That is the nature of the Vanara. So let the trees on the way to Ayodhya, let them be fully fruit-bearing. Let them be laden with fruits so that they can eat to their heart contents and come to Ayodhya on a full stomach. This is the Phalavantascha Padapaha. This is the boon he seeks from Bharadwaja. So, not in a single place you will find the Ramayana where Rama has sought something for himself. When Guha brings some kinds of delicacies which are to be found in the forest and offers them to Rama. He says, I know your great affection for me. I am very much touched by the fact that you have come, and you have come walking. Padbyam abhigamachame. You have come walking to see me. I am very much touched by this gesture. Yet, I cannot accept all these foods because I have been born as a Kshatriya. A Kshatriya is meant to give and not to take. Sarvam tat anujanami nahi varte pratigrahe. That he did not partake of even the smallest hospitality of fruits or berries which Guha had brought. He partook of only water, and that too he did not trouble Guha for that. Lakshmana brought water from the nearby stream, and that was the only ahara that Rama had in 3 days. He was fasting for 3 days. Now we have got a Prime Minister fasting for 11 days before the Prana Pratishtha of the Lord. It is not surprising because what else can you do for the Lord? A Lord who walked on his feet and who allowed the thorns and stones to create great injuries to his feet for 14 long years for the preservation of Dharma. A Lord who did not partake of even water for 3 days. Only at the end of the 3rd day, he took water that drew from Lakshmana's hand because he wanted to keep up the plighted word to his father. For such a Lord who chose to do all these things in human form so that humanity could be raised to the level of divinity, what else can you do for him? You fast for a day on Ramanavami. You fast for a day on Ekadashi. You think of Rama. You surrender yourself at his feet. There is nothing. He does not require anything from any of us. Only we require his grace. For now and for all times to come, we require his grace. Till we merge in him, we require his grace. And that grace is to be obtained by fasting, by penance, by austerity, by trying to overcome the needs of the body so that the needs of the spirit can be fulfilled. This is the spirit of Upavasa. Upavasa literally means to be in close proximity, to reside in proximity to the Lord. So proximity to the Lord demands that you must rise above the creature comforts of the flesh. That is why you will be blessed by proximity to the Lord. So 3 days he did not partake of food or drink, and at the end of the 3rd day he took only water from Lakshmana's hand. Jalameva dade bhojyam Lakshmanena hrutam swayam. The water did not constitute only drink, it constituted food also for him. That is why Jalameva dade bhojyam Lakshmanena hrutam swayam. That was the kind of self-abnegation that Rama practiced. Not one single instance you can show in the 24,000 verses of the Ramayana, not one single instance where he sought something for himself. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Because of that, when you live for others, when you don't seek anything for yourself, you become Rama, you become God, you become Ishvara. That is the message, the unspoken message of the Ramayana. Don't live for yourself, live for others. Your upliftment will be automatically ensured by the Lord. You will be uplifted to levels divine. That is the message which has not been articulated, but which has been conveyed by practice rather than by precept by Sri Ramachandra. So, you will not find one single instance where he has sought anything for himself. That is why he is Adinatma. Now here, Samudraiva Gambirye. I wanted to contrast this Adinyatvam with Gambirya. That's why I went back. Samudraiva Gambirye Dhairyena Himavanive. He was in his quiet dignity like the ocean. In the past also, in the last day or two, we have seen how the ocean has been the symbol for the Paramatma and the rivers have been the symbols for the Jivas. The Jivas are many in number. Likewise, the rivers are many in number, but the ocean is one. All these rivers find their abidance in the one single ocean. All the Jivas find their abidance in the one single Paramatma. That is why Samudraiva Gambirye is the very personification of divinity. He is the manifestation of the Supreme Lord Narayana himself. That is indicated by 2 words. By the previous phrase where he said, Sarvada abhigata sadbhigi samudra iva sindhubhigi. Here again they say, Narada says, Samudra iva gambirye dhairyena himavanive. Samudra iva gambirye. The river, if you see, it is a mixture of varied emotions. At times in the rainy season it swells, it sometimes flows over. At times in summer seasons when the rainfall is less, when the water inflow into the river is less, sometimes it dries up. I have seen the Kaveri drying up in several occasions. Whenever I had occasion to go to Padur and we were going to Kaveri for Avamrita Snana after the Purti of the Bhagavad Saptaham, we could see many places that there was not even water to wash your feet, let alone have a good bath. So even Mahanadis like Kaveri, they go dry at times. At other times, there is a swelling crescendo of water cascading through. There is a torrent of water cascading through. So it is caught between the state of having and state of not having. But the Samudra, the ocean is never like that. It is always in one single state. It never goes dry. Nagi kshubhyate durdarshaha samudraha saritam patiki. Again, it doesn't overflow. The ocean doesn't overflow at all. Nadis, the rivers may overflow, not the ocean. Sagara samayam krutva navedam ativartate. It is quiet in its dignity. Likewise, Rama did not sink into himself in the times of adversity. He did not go into raptures or exult over the prosperity that came to him at times. He was always in a state of equipoise at all times. That is why it is said, Samudraiva gambhirye daihiryena himavanivehe. You cannot think of Rama ever crouching before somebody or trying to curry favor with anybody. That is Adhinatma. He had his own innate dignity. So that is why it is said, Dhairyena himavanive. Samudraiva gambhirye dhairyena himavanive. And dhairyam, normally we understand it to be courage or bravery. Now what has bravery got to do with Himavan, who is the king of all the mountains and who is also blessed to be the father of Parvati in the incarnation as Parvatarajavardhini? What has bravery got to do with Himavan? The exact word dhairyam does not translate as bravery as we commonly understand. Dhairyam is the quality of a dhira. And who is a dhira? Vikara hetau sati vikriyante yesham na chetamsi tayeva dhiraha. Even when there is a lot of scope for the mind to be tempted, one whose mind stands just steadfast to Dharma does not vacillate between one or the other end. One whose mind is always steadfast, he alone is a dhira. Vikara hetau sati vikriyante yesham na chetamsi tayeva dhiraha. These are the immortal words of Kadadasa in the Kumar Sambhava. So, only those people who possess this quality of remaining steadfast in the face of a lot of temptations, they alone can be termed as dhiras, and it is they who are blessed with the vision divine. Tasya dhira parijananti yonim marichinam padamichanti vedasaha. So, the mountain is always given as an example. When the torrential rains or stormy winds, they affect the earth, you will find that a lot of trees, even mighty trees standing for 100 or 200 years, they are uprooted because of the force of the wind or because of the force of the water. The trees may be uprooted. So many other houses may be flattened because a tornado comes your way. Houses may be flattened. But have you ever come across a case where a tornado or a storm or a rush of water, has it ever succeeded in turning a mountain upside down? Have you ever come across a mountain which has been flattened by a tornado or a storm or by an overflowing river? No, never in the history of humanity you cannot see that. That is why the mountain is termed, amongst various other words, it is termed as achala in Sanskrit. Na chalati iti achalaha. That which does not move. It is absolutely rock-like. It is absolutely steadfast. It doesn't move. So, in his resistance to temptation, he was like Himavan. Dhairyena himavanive. Not merely in courage, it also requires courage. Courage also can be applied because when you are opposed by a torrential rain or by a tornado, it requires tremendous courage to stand up to it and say, let it come. I will stand on my own terms, I will not be faced by it. It requires tremendous courage for somebody to say that. And Himavan does not say it, but he shows it in practice. That is why Dhairyena himavanive. Dhairyena himavanive samudraiva gambhirye. Dhairyena himavanive. there is a word for it. There are two words rather. When Parameshwara is described, he is described as being akin to a tree which has shed all its leaves in the autumn. It is bereft of all leaves. Such a tree is called as a sthanu. Parameshwara is also called as a sthanu. Yet, even such a tree is susceptible to slight movements because of wind. The branches may move a little, but the mountain will not move one tiny wee bit. That is why sthanu, achalavati, at various other places is compared to mountain also, because he is the king of all mountains. Girishaya Namaha. Girishaya Namaha in the Shivashtottara. He is compared to a tree which has shed all its leaf in the autumn. That is why he is known as Sthanu. Now, when the same Girishaya Namaha, when the implication of the same word is connoted here by the word Dhairyena Himavanive, it also goes to show that Rama and Shiva are not two distinct entities, they are one and the same. There is one more benefit of this particular word. Dhairyena Himavanive Samudra Ivagambhirye Dhairyena Himavanive Vishnuna Sadrishakrodhe Kshamaya Prithvi Samaha Dhanadena Samastyage Satye Dharma Imaparaha Vishnuna Sadrisho Virye. In Virya or valor, he was the equivalent of Vishnu himself. There is a Vedic hymn which says, who can count the Virya also means the acts of valor. It is not merely the quality of valor, it also refers to the acts of valor. Can you count the valorous acts of the Lord? If somebody goes to Marina Beach and tries to say, I am going to count the grains of sand on this particular beach, is it not a foolhardy thing to do? It is impossible. Can you count with all the technology at your command? I don't think. You can perhaps give you a rough estimate, that's all. Nobody can give a precise figure and say, there are so many million grains of sand on this beach from Marina to, say, Besant Nagar or some other place. You cannot say the beach contains so many millions of grains of sand. Likewise, you cannot say, these are the valorous acts of the Lord and no more. You cannot put a full stop to it. Vishnor nukam viryani pravochankya parthiva divimame rajagam sigo askabhaga duttarakam sadastham vichakramana stredhorugayo Vishnu ranatamasi. This is the Veda mantra which has found resonance in the sloka of Bhattatri. Vishnor viryani kova kathagatu dharanehe kascharenun mimite yasyivangritragena trijagadabimitam modate purna sampati. That is why Valmiki says, he predates Bhattatri, he follows the Veda Marga and says, Narada says, Vishnuna sadrisho virye somavat priyadarshanaha kalagni sadrishakrode kshamaya prithvi samaha. In being pleasing to look at, he is like the moon. The Mahaswami of Kanchi has said, there are three things which normally one does not get tired of by looking. One is the moon. We used to have a tradition in our Tamil Nadu of having dinner by the moonlight on Chitra Paurnami. Nera Shapad, what we call in Tamil. You cannot see the sun continuously. For a minute, it requires a special mudra to protect your eyes and see the sun for the space of 1 minute. To chant those mantras contained in the Madhyanikam, you require a special mudra. You cannot see for a continuous time, for an extended period of time. But the moon you can keep on seeing and never get tired of. The other one is the ocean. That's why if we still, despite all the artificial modes of entertainment available to people, you still find on weekends and holidays, there is always a flock of people crowding to the Marina Beach. There is nothing to be seen except the ocean. We have been seeing from the time we were born, for so many years we have been seeing, there is nothing, no change in the ocean. At least in a program which is broadcast on the TV or the radio or somewhere else, in popular modes of entertainment, yesterday's program is not recast today, it is a different thing. But here the same ocean subsists for ages. Still you don't get tired of seeing the ocean. It gives you a wholesome pleasure which is not tainted by any of this sensual interruptions. Likewise, the elephant is an eternal favorite. That is why you find the elephant motif in our culture is a very strong motif. You find the elephant-headed god Ganesha as the primordial deity to be worshipped before starting any auspicious venture. You find that elephant is also the Vahana of Dharma Shastra. Elephant is also the Vahana of Subramanya. Many people know of only the peacock. Peacock, apart from the peacock, you have got a sheep, a goat, and also elephant. There are three types of vehicles which the Lord Subramanya has mounted. These are to be found in the Skanda Mahapurana. So you have got a plethora of elephant motifs in our culture, right from the Vahanas of the deities to the borders of the saris and dhotis we wear. There's the elephant motif is there. So elephant is to be found. Everywhere it is to be found. It is not only the biggest mammal in the world, it is a symbol of being sattvic, while being a great embodiment of strength, unquestionable strength. At the same time, it combines within itself a lot of intelligence and also simplicity. It's a very, very wonderful, attracting animal. So, like the elephant and like the moon and like the ocean, these three things, you cannot have a surfeit of them. You cannot tire of looking at them. That is why Somavad Priyadarshana, why this moon has been chosen over the ocean and the elephant is because the ocean and the elephant, they have got a connection with this terra firma, with this mundane earth. The moon, though you can see from the earth, it is not directly connected to the earth. It is a separate celestial body. This Lord is, though he appears to be in human form, he is not directly connected. He has come down from the heavens, he has come down from Vaikuntha. He is not, you don't consider him, because he has assumed a human form, don't think that he is as human as you and me. He is the divine incarnation to indicate that Somavat Priyadarshana Vishnuna Sadrisho Virye Somavat Priyadarshana Kalagni Sadrishakrodhe Kshamaya Prithvi Samaha Dhanadena Samastyage Satye Dharmaiva Paraha Tamevam Gunasampannam Rahamam Satyaparakramam Jeshtam Sreshta Gunaihi Yuktam Ramam Dasharatha Priyam Prakritinam Hitair Yuktam Prakriti Priyakamyaya Yuvarajyena Samyoktum Ahichat Pritya Mahipatihi. We have got only a couple of verses to go before we conclude the Upadesha of Narada to Valmiki. Those verses will be taken up tomorrow, and if I will try to give a summary of what Ramagunas have been expatiated in the other kandas, from the Ayodhya Kanda to Yuddha Kanda. We will try to have a bird's eye view tomorrow, and the sloka here in the Sankshepa Ramayana, which I have just quoted, ends with the words Aichat Pritya Mahipatiki. This very embodiment of virtue, Rama, was sought to be crowned as the Yuvaraja, as the prince designate by Dasharatha, and that desire of Dasharatha to crown his son will find fruition in tomorrow's traditional conclusion of the Upanyasa by a brief reference to the Rama Pattabhisheka. We will conclude tomorrow. This 5-day series gets over tomorrow. Devotees can come and listen and partake of the blessings of Sri Ramachandra. Aigirinandini Nandita Medini Vishwa Vinodini Nandinute Girivara Vindhya Shirodhini Vasini Vishnu Vilasini Jishnunute Bhagavati He Shiti Kanta Kutumbini Bhuri Kutumbini Bhuri Krute Jaya Jaya He Mahisha Asurama Dini Ramya Kapat Dini Shaila Sute Papa Bhavata Pabara Kopashamana Harta Shwasakara Bhasa Mrudu Hasaruchirasyam Rogachaya Bhogabaya Vegharamekam Vata Puranatha Mimamata Nurudabje Goshakula Doshahara Veshamupayantam Pushashata Dushaka Vibhushana Ganadyam Bhuktimapi Muktimati Bhakti Shudadanam Vata Puranatha Mimam Atanu Hridabje पापक दुरापमति तापहर शोभ स्वापगन मापतत् उमापति समेतम दूनतर दीन सुख दान कृत दीक्षम वातपुरनाथमिमम् आतनु हृदब्जे बालान् स्वकीयान् तव सन्निधाने दिव्यान्नदानात् परिपालयद्भिः सदा पठद्भिश्च पुराणरत्नं संसेवितायास्तु नमो हरेते नारायण 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 नित्यान्नदात्रे च महीसुरेभ्यः नित्यं दिविस्थैः निशिपूजिताय मात्रा च पित्रा च तथा उद्धवेन सम्पूजितायास्तु नमो नमस्ते नारायण 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 मंगलम कोसलेन्द्राय महनीय गुणात्मने चक्रवर्ती तनूजाय सार्वभौमाय मंगलम मंगलौ मस्करीन्द्राय महनीय गुणात्मने अनन्तरामगतये श्रवणानन्ददायिने शुकशास्त्रस्वरूपाय पारायण परागे च रामचन्द्राश्रयाख्याय संयमीन्द्राय मंगलम काञ्चनाद्रिनिभाङ्गाय वाञ्छितार्थप्रदायिने अञ्जनाभाग्यरूपाय आञ्जनेयाय मंगलम् जानकीकान्तस्मरणं जय जय राम राम श्री सद्गुरुस्वामिनः जय आञ्जनेयस्वामिनः जय स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्याय्येन मार्गेण महीं महीषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु कायेन वाचा मनसा इन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्या आत्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि त्वदीयं वस्तु राजेन्द्र तुभ्यमेव समर्पये तेन त्वदङ्घ्रिकमदे रतिं मे यच्च शाश्वतीं यदक्षरपदभ्रष्टं मात्राहीनं तु यद्भवेत् तत्सर्वं क्षम्यतां देव नारायण नमोऽस्तु ते विसर्गबिन्दुमात्राश्च पदपादाक्षराणि च न्यूनानि चातिरिक्तानि क्षमस्व पुरुषोत्तम क्षमस्व रघुनंदन क्षमस्व गुरुसत्तम क्षमस्व हरिसत्तम यज्ञेशाच्युत गोविंद माधवानंतकेशव कृष्ण विष्णु ऋषिकेश वासुदेव नमोस्तुते श्री हरये नमः गुरुवायूरप्प शरणं नारायण अखिल गुरो भगवन् नमस्ते वासुदेव कामाक्षी गुरुमूर्ते त्वां नमामि कामाक्षी गुरुवर्य पादुके शरणम्